Good evening. We're here in the Space Shuttle Flight Control Room. The Orbit 3 team is on duty. We're still in the first half of the shift here for the Orbit 3 team. One of the key controllers, I think, during the Orbit 3 shift is the FAO. So joining us is Fisher Reynolds, who is, I think, one of two FAOs serving on this shift.
Well, the prime FAO, and then we had another guy that was doing the on-the-job training with us the last few nights.
Great. Well, it seems like you guys are one of the busiest folks during this time. Can you tell us everything that the FAO, what your job encompasses, especially during the Orbit 3 shift?
Well, we go and we plan the next day's activities, so we have to go and pulse all the different controllers on both the shuttle and the station side looking for changes to the timeline for the next day's activities. And then we compile all of that information, and then we rearrange activities in the timeline, and then we have to go through and make sure everything is reviewed, and that includes messages, new procedures that are going up for EVAs or water dumps or whatever, and we have those all reviewed and approved by the flight director, and then we uplink them all to the crew.
Now, I think some people might think it's simple when you're talking generically about the timeline for the crew or the timeline for the activities, but really there are a lot of things represented on that document: satellite coverage, robotic arm. Tell us everything that you're really looking at.
Right. Well, we're looking at all the communication coverage. A lot of events have communication requirements, so they have to have either TV or voice, so we make sure that those activities are over those satellite events so that they can have the voice. Some have lighting constraints, so we make sure that they're either in the daylight or in the darkness. Others are all have to be scheduled relative to one another, so we make sure they're in the right order. And we do everything from when they wake up, all the activities they do in the morning, payload activities, meal, all in the afternoon, and all the way down to sleep.
And, of course, you can't forget our PAO events.
Those are the most important.
You guys are really key to making those happen and ensuring that we have all the communications coverage we need and the right crew members participating. So thank you for all your help.
Those are ones that we are constantly looking at and tweaking the times to make sure we have the good TV coverage.
We appreciate that. Tell me, how far in advance are you working for a mission? Like, how far in advance do you have kind of an initial timeline for the missions? I'm curious how far out those types of things come together.
Well, for the leads, they will start out anywhere from a year to a year and a half, sometimes even longer if the flights start slipping, and they start putting the timelines together, and then they work it during that for that full year. And then as we get in within a few months, about 3 or 4 months of the flight, the rest of the flight controllers on the team will start reviewing the timelines and having team meetings and learning the activities that are going on. So in about 3 or 4 months we start getting involved, and in the last few weeks there's a lot of studying in preparation for the flight.
When does the crew get involved, and what kind of interaction do you have with them pre-flight?
You will usually have 1 or 2 crew members involved several years in advance, and then once we start working on the timelines about a year out, year and a half out, you usually have the whole crew involved, and so we will work with them to get activities scheduled correctly. They have a lot of preferences, so.
It seems to me, compared to a lot of the other kind of disciplines here in the control room, FAO, it seems like it's kind of a compilation of different skills. Tell me the path, for you in particular, and how you ended up in this position.
Well, I have a mechanical engineering degree, and when I was studying, I liked a lot of different things in engineering. I didn't want to specialize in any one particular activity. So when I interviewed and found out what this position does, what this organization did, they didn't have to be an expert in any one particular area, but they got to interface with a lot of different areas and know a little bit about everything. And that really appealed to me. And it's been like that the whole time I've been here. I get to interface with a lot of great folks in all the different disciplines, all the experts, and the more I talk to them, the more I learn. So it's a very entertaining job. I mean, it's a very fulfilling job. It's learning stuff new all the time.
Speaking of, how long have you been with NASA, and how many shuttle missions have you supported?
Well, it's 26 years in July, and I don't know how many it's been.
Good. Well, clearly you enjoy it.
First flight was 41G.
Gotcha. Okay. So you've kind of talked about what you like. What do you find are the hardest parts about your job?
It's the coordinating. I mean, the coordination with everybody is probably the most difficult aspect, but it's also the most fulfilling. And just sometimes it can be hard to get everything coordinated just right amongst all the different disciplines. but you just keep plugging at it, and it's very fulfilling once you get it all accomplished.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting at the start of our shift. Sometimes it just looks like a puzzle that the pieces are scattered everywhere, and by the end, you guys have it nicely, tightly, wrapped up with a bow and ready for the crew. So it's kind of an amazing job that you have pulling that all together.
Well, that's the way we like it to appear to work.
Speaking of, I'm sure you have some folks that support you. What kind of backroom, teams do you have that help you through the shift?
Well, we've got 4 different positions in the back room. One is the pointing position, and they're the ones that check all of our communication coverage, predictions, and any attitude changes that the orbiter goes through. They're the ones that come up with those. We have our timeliner, who is the one that's actually putting all of these activities on paper through a computer system, rearranging, shuffling all the activities. We have MATS folk. They're called MATS, M-A-T-S, Message and Timeline Support. They're the ones that put together all the messages that are sent up to the crew. And then we have our OCA support, and they are the position that actually uplinks the timelines and the procedure updates to the crew, to their laptops. We have a network connection to laptops that the crews have on board. So they're the ones that actually uplink that, and then they downlink all of the imagery that the crew takes.
Well, it's very impressive. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us a little bit about your position and how that all comes together.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Again, this is Fisher Reynolds, the Flight Activities Officer for the Orbit 3 team here in the Space Shuttle Flight Control Room, just one of the talented team members supporting our STS-132 mission.